Music theory is a very deep subject, like the ocean, right? And so when you get way down into the bottom, like into the really super dark places, there's some weird stuff that's going on down there. In general, the major scale acts as our sort of ruler of all things. Everything we talk about in music relates to the major scale. It's much like a ruler. It really is. But there are other constructs way down in the deep that create some bizarre and pretty cool results. Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. Today you will learn about symmetrical intervals. I'm going to explain what those are. Then I'm going to show you how we find them on the guitar. And then I'm going to show you what the results of these symmetrical intervals are, what they create, and how they're used in modern music. But it's going to be a little bit of a mathematical journey, so I'm going to take you back to elementary school math. Now don't worry, don't panic. I'm going to be doing all the math here, and it's pretty easy. Here's what a symmetrical interval is. Basically, if you think about the Western 12-tone series, like all of the notes up to the 12th fret, those are all the notes that we have in our musical library, in the Western library. This is called the chromatic series. So all of these notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those are all the notes we get, right? Dividing that system, that 12-tone system, into symmetrical chunks, what we'd need to do is use factors. So basically, what are the factors of 12? And if you remember your elementary school math, factors are basically what goes into this number evenly. How can we divide this number in even chunks? And I'm just going to cut to the chase. The factors for 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. And that's it. Those are the only factors. Those are the only ways you can divide 12 into even chunks. So I'm going to do that on the guitar. I'm going to show you what they sound like and look like and how to find them. It's going to be very cool. And then we'll talk about how they're used in music and how these things come across and what their function is. All right, let's get started. Okay, symmetrical intervals. Let's get them on the neck, listen to what they are, and see what the results are when we chop up this structure into even symmetrical chunks. We're going to use the lower third here. I'm going to put a lot of numbers down here so we can see what it is we're hearing. We want to be able to sort of understand what the implications are as we divide this structure into even symmetrical chunks and hear what the result is. But we also want to sort of track what's going on. The first thing is we have 12 notes. There are 12 tones in the Western musical library, the chromatic series it's referred to, the 12-tone system. Here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's it. So all the notes we ever get, we can stretch those out frequency-wise, play them higher or lower, different octaves, but those are the only 12 notes we get. Now let's put a major scale over this too, because the major scale is sort of the ruler of all things. All the analysis we do in music theory is against the major scale, so let's put that on there too. Here it is. There's the major scale. Notice we're not looking at note names right now. We're just looking at distances. We're just looking at this as a structure of sonic distance. So we've got the 12-tone system down there. We've got a major scale on there because it's the king of all things, and we really want to have that along so we can analyze what else happens here. Now we're going to divide this 12-tone system into symmetrical chunks. And if you recall your elementary school math, the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Those are the only numbers that divide evenly into 12. So this is going to be fairly easy. It's going to go fairly well. We're going to use the E string to look at these divisions. The first one is 1, 12, 1. That's it. We're done. The next factor, in other words, dividing that structure into 2, right, a factor of 2, we need to cut this in half. Half of 12 is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the middle of the octave. Because from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? We've divided into 6. Uh-oh, listen to this. Rush's YYZ uses this interval called the tritone. I'm going to do a whole video on the tritone eventually, but just know this. This interval defines the distance between a major third and a flat 7, which is in every single dominant chord. So this interval is all over the place in music. You hear it all the time inside chords. That interval is inside every dominant chord. Very, very handy to know. So there's our first factor. Factor of 2. We did 1. 1 is just the whole thing. Second factor is the tritone. Okay, our next factor is 3. So if we want to divide this distance, these 12 tones, into 3 different sections, we're going to have to use the number 4, right? 4, 8, 12. That's how that works, right? Remember, simple, easy math. So let's just divide this into 4 fret chunks. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as you can see, looking at this against the major scale, it creates the augmented arpeggio. Root, major third, sharp 5. And then we're back to the root again. That generates the augmented arpeggio. Pretty fascinating. The next factor is a factor of 4. If we want to divide the 12 tones into 4 equal chunks, we have to use the number 3. 3, 6, 9, 12. That's how that works, right? Here's our number 3. That is the diminished arpeggio. If you look at this against the major scale, it's the root, the flat 3, the minor third, the flat 5, and the 6. So that creates the diminished arpeggio. And again, these are all symmetrical, so they go on forever. I'm going to show you that in a minute. The next factor is the factor of 6. If we want to divide this into 6 equal chunks, we're going to have to use the number 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And those are whole steps. So this is really easy to see. This is the first symmetrical construct that's actually considered a scale, and this is the whole tone scale. Obviously named because it's all whole tones. Each one of these constructs is symmetrical, meaning that you can go on and on and on with those same size intervals forever, as long as you can. All of these are symmetrical. I'll demonstrate with that with the tritone first. In other words, you can stack these forever. I'm just moving in tritones. They go on and on forever. Here's that augmented arpeggio going on and on. Here's the diminished arpeggio going on and on. Very cool. Here's the whole tone structure going on and on. On and on and on and on. These are symmetrical, so they just move on forever. Fascinating stuff. So there it is. When you divide this structure into symmetrical chunks, you get all of these cool, very unusual sounds. This is sort of the deep dive into the ocean of music theory. Fascinating stuff. All right, well there they are, symmetrical intervals. Those are the ways we take that 12-tone system and divide it into even chunks. And those are the only ones, right? Very weird stuff, right? When you do this kind of thing, you apply objective math to this sonic reality, you get weird results. I think this stuff is fascinating. If I was to order these in sort of like the order of how useful they are, that first one, the tritone, that splitting the octave in half, YYZ by Rush, I believe. It's everywhere. The tritone, as I explained, defines the relationship between the third and the flat 7, which is a relationship in every single dominant chord. And in every single blues tune you've ever heard, pretty much, there are at least one dominant chord, if not all dominant chords. Dominant chords are in funk, R&B, jazz, they're everywhere. So the tritone is used constantly. The very next level of sort of, usefulness, I would imagine in this structure would be the diminished structure, that sort of minor third thing. That diminished structure is used a lot in jazz, and it's also used a lot in neoclassical. So artists like Yngwie Malmsteen, diminished stuff all over his stuff because he uses the harmonic minor scale, which also creates the diminished arpeggio. It might be too much information, but tritone, diminished arpeggio, that's the next sort of useful one. And then I would imagine after that it's that augmented shape, the augmented chord. Not used a lot in modern music right now, but the Beatles used it a lot, and in older modern music it was used quite a bit. It's a great tension builder. That's augmented. Augmented right here. So that's used, a bit. And then finally it would be that whole tone. The whole tone is a weird scale. And that's the only one of the structures, by the way, that is a scale. The others are arpeggios because they're wider than a whole step. And scales are built mostly of whole steps. That's also another tangent. But it creates this sort of, what is this? This is like a dominant with a flat 5 or a sharp 5. Sometimes called Lydian dominant. Weird. Used a lot in jazz. Very, very strange. Okay, I've been rambling too much. I've tabbed all this stuff out. If you're interested, I put that on Patreon so you can go grab the tabs there. If you like this channel and you enjoy what I do, supporting me on Patreon is probably the best way to go. I've also put a donate button down there in the description. So if you do choose to support the channel, I thank you in advance. Symmetrical intervals. More than just the tritone and that diminished series, this is also useful just to get your mind thinking about things and listening to the math of music. It's fascinating stuff. Grab a pencil, grab your guitar, divide the octave in these ways and look at it and listen to it and just be curious about it. I think you'll find some really cool stuff in there. All right, I'll see you next time.